For those who landed on this multimedia by chance, on this video by accident, or because intrigued by these topics, welcome meanwhile. My name is Valkyria on Telegram. I have a chat and a channel called Soquadro, and I'm following very carefully the appearance of these documents that I saw on some accounts of American patriots. Suddenly appeared 4 slides, 4 screenshots, but incomplete, and it was necessary to reassemble the story a little bit. So, there are acts, there are court procedures, there are court acts of a specific court, and they caught my attention immediately because I saw the wording United States Corporation Company. And then we'll talk about that. So, this is simply an act of a court, okay? The court in this case is a particular court because it is the court that deals with the corporate bankruptcy. The bankruptcy is different from failures. The business failures means the debt increase in a conspicuous way to blow the financial position of a legal person, PLC or LTD, when creditors claim payments and the company then fails. Bankruptcy is something different. Bankruptcy encompasses, even for Italian law, here we are in the American jurisdiction that is partly common law and partly civil law, and we are instead in a civil law system. The bankruptcy involves the embezzlement, therefore it is a process that, especially in the United States, occurs with a remarkable speed, precisely because there are damage, because the company, the corporation, the trust, the limited liability company, in short, are all the various form, isn't it? As we have SPA, PLC, and SRL, LTD, etc., that also exist in America with other names. So these people basically swindled, robbed of their possession, make claims and ask for a bankruptcy of this company, right? So this is a court that deals exclusively with that. And it's the Tallahassee Court in North Florida. In fact, the court is the Northern District of Florida, as you see in the header. The alleged debtor is United States Corporation Company. On the right-hand side, the case number is 2040375KKS. The cited article of the Corpus Legis, in short, of the law of bankruptcy, is Chapter 11, and in the case this is a court order asking the bankruptcy applicants, so-called the plaintiff, while those who should go into a bankruptcy are called the defendant. So the United States Corporation Company is the defendant. Plaintiff asks to be heard. They file documents, give reason for their request, and say, look, don't file it because our reasons are viable. And now we'll see what those reasons are. Slowly we'll find out. The second slide that appeared on the web tells us a little bit more, explains a little bit more, because it makes us understand who the actors in this petition are. Because this is a petition for bankruptcy, so the alleged debtors here appears with the name of United States Corporation Company, with a registered office in Tallahassee, Florida, where also resides the civil court of jurisdiction that takes on this proceeding and settles it. And here are its identifiers. That is the taxpayer ID, there is a tax position, there is the full EIN, that would be a composite VAT number. And then there are 5 DBA, as you see, DBAs in bold. DBA in English means doing business as. That is other companies with other company names. operating in the name and on behalf of the first, that is, United States Corporation Company, doing business as. So let's say that in Florida, in Tallahassee, the United States Corporation Company exists. Then there are 5 companies that operate by having their revenues and earnings flow into this box, which is called a holding company. Namely, there is a mother company and there are 5 subsidiaries. As you can see, the curious thing is that there are 2 companies where China appears. These companies, in this case, deal with telephone networks, internet networks, etc. And they are, if you want, then we will surf and see if there are questions or deeper investigation are necessary. This is the legal entity, so you have just to look for this to find their website. They are giants. If you also look for the budget, you will find they move, what kind of yearly billing they have. They are not at all small companies. They're giants. In this case, the first one, the Corporation Service Company, CSC, if you surf looking for it, is a colossus, and certainly not only in Florida, but is present in all U.S. federal states, and is the official provider of UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, that many of you know even here in Italy, right? Uniform Commercial Code. So this service, this public register of companies that regulates commercial relations between companies, both within the United States and between the United States and other countries in the world. Because the UCC is a uniform commercial code that is applied to relation between commercial entities. Let's say India with Tajikistan, Italy with the United States, China with Russia. The rules are always the same. China doesn't, but I give random examples, but China doesn't adhere. UCC is a creation of the Vatican. This can be proved, and it's probable. We will do it in another pill. Maybe I will show you later. So we have a doing business as of the United States Corporation Company, which is basically the one that provides all the telematic services, the platform that records all the sensitive data, and has the world database of UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, which exists. Then, if it exists, but is it not at all what you have been told so far? It is a property of the Holy See. The Holy See, that is all the dioceses of the world, depended on the Vatican. On the right, we have the firm defending this alleged debtor, represented by attorney Patrick Michael Shelby. He has been defined as a young lawyer, has been defined incompetent, a lawyer man, in short, as an unprofessional lawyer. But you should go and look for the law firm, that is, the associated law firm in the name and on behalf of which this lawyer is working. It is called Phelps Dunbar LLP. Phelps is a law firm, the largest in America. Then we'll see what it is. It's a colossus, so person signed as a representative of the law firm. But most likely the hearings which were held, COVID case, all of them in teleconference, representative this huge law firm that won this year award as the best law firm in America. Later we'll get into why they choose this firm. The firm has 270 associates with various civil and criminal specialization. But we'll talk about this firm in a little bit later. It's very big anyway. Let's move on to the 2 creditors, alleged creditors. So the plaintiff, there are 2 of them. They have strange name, but we'll see later who they are. So the first one is a woman, Favorite Shekinah L. doing business as, namely doing business for the Moorish Science Temple of America, which is a religious association, and the Court of Equity and Truth. Then there is another alleged creditor and the four plaintiffs named Malik Rasha El. Both give the same address as a reference. Later we will see that the address for these people may not be there. They can give as a reference to the court a post office box, that is, those mailboxes, like in the cartoons where the letter carrier passes by and raises the pole to let the owner know that the mail has arrived. Those are the ones. They can also be at the crossroads between a state road and another in the middle of the countryside, because they have numbers, unlike what happens in Italy, for example. Then they just give the number of that post office box and people will go there to pick up the mail. Those two people represent themselves without the help of a lawyer. It can be done. It can be done both for international law that provides for it. Can be done in England. It can also be done in America with a certain limit that is dictated by regulated procedure that is called pro se. Legal assistance on the plaintiff. Pro se is Latin and means for things that concern you. That is, you are defending yourself on your own, basically, and your own without the help of a lawyer. What you see here, titled Official Form 205, is the action that these two individuals, a man and a woman, who are defending themselves and who have strange name, we will see later who they are, have brought in this Florida court the so-called involuntary petition against a known individual. Because obviously a corporation is not a natural person, but it is a legal entity, a business entity. Why involuntary? The involuntary petition corresponds to what in Italy is called notizia criminis. This is like a complaint, a notizia criminis. Let's see what a public about this acts. And we found this page, Info-Rapsy, that would be all the bankruptcy procedures that are in place in all the federal states of the United States in this moment. And here is confirmed. Meanwhile, you can see the name of the judge, which is this Judge Karen K. Specie. You can see it written up there. Karen F. Specie is not a lawyer who then became a honorary judge 4 years ago. Karen K. Specie is no less than the president of the entire court of the Northern District of Florida. So she is the president of the inner court. On the right-hand side, we see there's always the famous 4-bit lawyer with his law firm. We'll then go and look at his site. That's reiterated as well. The case manager, who is in this case would be the clerk, is named Anne Laritz. She's the clerk, okay? But here we have some dates. The first deposit was made on October 13, 2020. Then, as I told you at the beginning, this case was dismissed. It was filed. Then the closure was appealed. The dismissal was appealed, and the two plaintiffs obtained a reopening of the case on January 8, 2021. Do you realize we are talking about some week before yesterday, okay? So here we are in the registry-owned database. The latest filings, let's take the first 3 lines. Then on January 22, 2021, therefore 3 days ago. Some like this. The court orders the plaintiff, the two characters defending themselves, to produce new evidence that they are the real alleged creditors. And then prove that they are the ones filing for bankruptcy of the United States corporation. This, you see here, is the deed, the latest available on January 22, 2021, the order that the court sent by certified mail because due to the COVID, the hearings are even held in person, also in United States, so it's all done remotely, okay? By Zoom, by any means where you can see the faces, where you can swear to tell the truth. That's how trials are done, unfortunately, now, and the same things happens with them for COVID restriction. So this document has 14 pages. It has been read in a very partial way, without going into the merits here in Italy, and without analyzing it as a whole. So here the plaintiff are ordered to refrain from filing new documents, and this has been dismissed as the judge is fed up and now it sues them for harassment to the court, towards the court, and for legal overreach. That's what we call it, legal overreach. Is when you continue to say, well, I'm right, and you continue to file documents and continue blah, blah, blah. At the end, the court tells you, listen, that's enough. Now I sentence you to a penalty. In America, it works like this. You pay a fine, and that's all. Here I anticipate you, the judge says you could incur in a payment of a fine. But she doesn't impose fines. Yet these people have deposited tons of evidence, because I know how the Moorish do it, because they are Moorish. We will talk about later. So this judge in this act says, meanwhile, these two gentlemen have already filed in this court other petition of this caliber with the same intention, always against United States corporation. You have to tell me why two people like us are so aggressive against the United States corporation. Then here the judge begins to say, well, you've been filing this bankruptcy petition against this entity for years, and this court has already determined in the past that there were not enough substance, let's say, to go on, judging your frivolous, groundless, and sometimes vexatious claim. So even offensive to the court itself. And it does a little bit of an analysis, I'm on page number 3, and says this happened. You filed this involuntary petition in the past, and you already said you were the creditors, and that this was your alleged debtor, etc., etc., and this case were filed. What happens here? I'm now on page, I don't want to read it to you in English, but it is necessary here. I am on page number 4. And here it says, in the hearing following the order of show new evidence, Mrs. Shekinah L. gave considerable detail. So she submitted and forwarded an unbelievable amount of paper, giving evidence of the need to proceed with arrest, incarceration, and other incidents that she and member of her association had suffered since 2010. And she described this action as an authority that involved international war crimes against her, and you see that international war crimes appears in quotes against her and her son Gallet. He says this United States corporation, and this is written by the judge on the next page, which is page 5. The corporation is headquartered in Delaware. But how? Was it in Florida? And it's in Delaware now? And it's a private entity. I've already got it. It's a fiscal seat in Delaware, for the simple reason that Delaware is the best tax paradise in the world, because it pays 8% of taxes, and if you are in a Delaware resident and you operate in Canada, you pay 0% taxes. That is Delaware, which is the state of Biden. Basically support itself with the registration to the Chamber of Commerce of millions of companies of various kinds that are looking for a guaranteed tax paradise. And that's true because United States Corp, in fact, it's tax domiciled in Delaware. So, what does the court say in some point? Doing all this analyzing of the fact that have happened previously and referring to the previous cases, at some point it draws conclusion. It draws conclusion on page 11. Conclusion. What does the judge says? This is the most interesting part, because she says, as this court has already explained many times, the judge is very irritated. As this court has already explained many times, court dealing with bankruptcy like mine, she's saying, are not the appropriate place for criminal matters, especially if they concern alleged actions that can be considered, again, war crimes. So what is this judge saying? You can bring me all the things you want, but at this point I say to you, and I conclude and close the case, I say to you that from this way you have presented it, this case has nothing to do with bankruptcy, because obviously there are international war crimes involved, which are quite a different type of crime from bankruptcy. And I, as a president of this court, say to you that I do not have jurisdiction over this type of crimes. You have to go to the appropriate courts. And what are the appropriate courts? I remind you that Trump has disavoided the Hague Tribunal because the Hague Tribunal, which is practically bought and paid for by Soros, condemns the United States every time. It condemns the United States Army for war crimes, it condemns the United States for sanction, and up to now nobody has raised a single objection because obviously there was a game of give and take. It was okay to pay the sanction, wasn't it? Trump disavoided this Hague Tribunal, said, no, I don't care anymore. You don't administer things that affect the United States, and the United States military and its action and mission, I'll take care of it. So basically, the United States, in its current state, does not have a civilian tribunal for international crimes. It doesn't. It has disavowed that one, and they internally don't have one. But they do have court martial. They do have military tribunals. But the most important thing is on page 11. This judge recommends redirecting to a court that has jurisdiction over international war crimes. And you will say, but why are the activities of an immense United States corporation considered acts of war against two individuals? Because the two of them are Moorish. And you will laugh, I know we'll laugh. I was laughing 10 years ago, the first time, too. But then, I went to find out that there is a peace treaty between the Moorish and the United States of America. And now, I will show you. When I went to see that there are treaties signed jointly in the international forum between United States, perhaps here is the better to add of America, Morocco, which is the one of the original lands of the Moorish, together with France, which at the time had a colonial interest in Morocco. So it was one of the actors. Those treaties provide for the total immunity of the Moorish wherever they are. Now I will show you this act, the peace treaty between the United States of America and the Moorish. What is the title of this official peace treaty? Official between states. It is titled the Moroccan-American Treaty of Peace and Friendship. This is the first in a series, signed on June 28, 1786, I repeat, 1786, Moroccan-American Treaty of Peace and Friendship, and it begins like this. In the name of Almighty God. This is the Treaty of Peace and Friendship established between us and the United States of America, which is confirmed and which we have ordered to be written in this book and sealed with our royal seal at our court in Morocco. When did the United States wage war to Morocco? Never. In 1786, then never. Why do they sign a peace treaty so? Because the peace treaty talks about the Moors. If you get to Article 6, you start reading the word Moorish. If any Moorish shall take the citizen of the United States or their effect to Her Majesty, the citizen shall be forthwith set at liberty and the effects restored to the original state with restoration or redress of damage. If any Moorish shall not be subject to this dominion, he shall take any of the citizens of the United States of their effects. He will retaliate against the American in the peace treaty if not respected. And then they talk about Moors. So it's not the treaty with Morocco, it's a treaty between the Moors and the United States of America. They sign a peace agreement under the same God. So let's start thinking about the Moorish as something quite different from a folkloric and laughing thing. The Moorish have a status of U.S. federal person. That is, they are constant immigrant who do not want any American residence nor citizenship. They are citizens of the world. They are traveling states in the sense that they are entities with the same rank of a state. That is why they have a diplomat passport. That is why they have greater rights than citizens. That is why in America they are even endowed with greater rights than the great electors. You have heard of them now, haven't you? The great voters. Great voters in America is special citizenship. They are nationals. They have many more rights than normal citizens. In America, you can find different categories of citizenship. We, on the other hand, in Italy, we have only one. We are all slaves. That's fine anyway. So you start thinking that we are talking about people who have the right to file for bankruptcy of the United States Corporation because they received a damage and therefore the peace treaties between the United States and the Moors were violated. So now they're asking for a remedy, and they're saying, this is not the entity with which we signed the peace treaty in 1786. That's the constitutional republic. That's the founding fathers' republic. These guys are a commercial entity, don't have anything to do with it. And they weren't even there at the time of the peace treaty. They're part of what rabbit game that came out of the hat in 1871, so we don't recognize them. We don't want to recognize them at all. We want them shut down, and we are not willing to get all their capital. It's not like they're doing it to get their own accounting taken for them quadrillions of dollars and all that is the U.S. national debt. Absolutely not. They're doing it because in the charter, and if you wish we can go later into more detail in a dedicated bill, they talk about the purpose goals. And what are they? To get rich? No. To fight for the right of the inhabitants of the earth. All of them. Not only the Islamists, not only the Moroccans, not only the Mauritians, of those from Chad or those from New York, everyone. Precisely because they have a sovereign status. They are kings of the world. I repeat, I tried to say it in live broadcast the other day, but they are king of the world. That is why, at the end of the names, they are all called Shekinah El. El means God, because they have never been subjected to any jurisdiction. They have their own jurisdiction, which is that of the Creator. It is natural law. They act in the name and on behalf of God, and God is one. The true God, the Creator, is one. He is the source. There are not 7 or 8. There is not one Indian or Chinese one. Is one, the creator of all things. So they have a mission to be free human beings from the slavery of the fake corporate state. They have to liquidate this corporate state, take the asset of this corporate state and redistribute them to all humanity. You don't believe that? So let's start thinking, though, why did they write to Donald Trump? Let's go and look at that letter. Now we explain why having written to the White House on May 4, 2020, as you can see, they get a response. Meanwhile, I was saying none of them are inmates because it's obviously not common use that if an inmate writes from a United States prison to the president give him advice on how to bankrupt corporate United States of America. Here's the president gives them a series of advice, because it's 2 of them, a series of direct direction. So first of all, this is a formal answer. How does the president address them? The president calls them U.S. federal person. What the heck is that? Why doesn't he say to them, dear citizen, fellow Americans? No, because they are not citizen. They are U.S. federal person. This is a status I mentioned before. The U.S. federal person is practically a permanent resident of the United States, with full powers to do what he wants, travel where he wants, go where he wants, benefit from any service, is exempt from taxes. Then I tell you, they have a fiscal position, but in fact they are not paying taxes because they are trust on food. That's why then, after clearly understanding all these, we can talk about freedom and liberty. Because this is the way, this is the real way, self-determination of the peoples, not individual sovereignty. Individual sovereignty is a selfish act, because I do not want to be sovereign in the midst of a slaved people. I do not care. I want the people to evolve, to self-determine and obtain what they are entitled to by birthright. That is, the birthright provides in natural law the right of prosperity, the right of happiness, the right to live together and prosper and improve the state of the earth and the world, because we are guests and guardians of the earth, and we must leave it to our descendants in better condition. So we must preserve the good. Then everyone preserves the one where they are born. But even if they move to another continent, another nation, they have an obligation to preserve the land. They must not prey on it. And this is called natural law ethics. Anyway, so these are federal persons. These are walking societies, immune societies. They are immune to everything. And Trump addressed them by putting the quotation mark and typing them as a corporation, as a trust, in capital letters. There are 2 of them, Roger Allen Moore and Raj Amexem Moore Raphael, who is the son of Shekinah L. Raphael Allen Moore and Raul Amexem. And he identifies them in the same way as they presented themselves to the president, the identification of the taxpayer, because they have a fiscal position. But this is another question that does not concern us now. We're not interested in the fiscal relationship of the Moorish on the American territory. It's not part of this discussion. But the president writes, and here is absolutely necessary to translate literally. The president says, note well, and he puts it in bold, contact the Department of the United States in the person of the head of the Department of the Treasury, Internal Revenue Service, that would be for Italy like the tax collection agency. Though he even tells them the form they have to use. Through the form 2848. The president is clearly telling them what to do. He's not replying to the letter generically. That would be something like, well, contact the Treasury. No. The answer would be as, ask them, what to do they want me to know? Why are you writing to the White House? On the contrary, he clearly explained them everything, and in brackets he writes, that it would be the power of the legal representative of the Treasury Department. That is, you fill out this form and ask the legal representative of the IRS Treasury Department to respond to you, and then you use Form 56, which is the notification to the fiduciary agent, always from the Treasury. That is, you go and tell those two formal officers who are my managers with power of legal representation. What are you telling me? And you use these two forms, 2848 and 56. This is an action that they had already done. In fact, it says sent December the 1st of 219 through the United States Postal Service with certified mail, and it gives them the PEC identifier, mail number, and that is the identifier of the PEC that it was sent. So the president says, the forms that you guys sent me, I already forwarded to these people with power of legal representation through the U.S. Postal Service, and stating that anyone who has an interest, because it operates through or for, in the name for, or on behalf of, or uses the services of the United States business entities, commercial entity, then the corporation that is no longer listed at the SEC, okay, all of them are affected by this process. So the U.S. citizen and all companies, other corporations, multinationals that operate and have operated in the past in various ways with the United States commercial entity. Then in the paragraph below it says the two federal public persons, the ones we read in the subject line, have filed a claim against the United States corporation in connection with, and Trump is referring to a specific article of the United States Code, which is Chapter 12, Paragraph 95, which deals with a rule governing transaction made between a foreign currency converted to gold and silver, or also deals with the transfer of property, accrued interest, penalties, and sanctions that may be imposed for any violation of said rule. Okay? We're speaking about this part in bold, and other rules pertaining to United States debt without of America, the debt of the corporation. Basically, you are setting up the crime of embezzlement, which is a very serious thing that shut down trust, because when a trustee is guilty of this, that is prey, and therefore it is embezzlement, but worse yet, as they say, it commits international crimes. This is the embezzlement of the trustee. Practically, the corporation is dissolved because it has not complied with its own charter. It has behaved in an undue manner. Now, let's go to the next paragraph. Your business entity is federally bound to United States and United States public debt obligation by way of your Internal Revenue Service employer identification. Affirms you, despite being person with full immunity and full legal personality, have assigned an identification code that binds you to the IRS, which is the Treasury, because this is the Internal Revenue Service, practically our Ministry of Finance. It depends practically, it says in brackets, from the Treasury Department. And you are linked to it because you have bank accounts here in the United States, so you are tied to this Department of the Treasury. And to them you have to turn if you have been wronged by the U.S. corporation. So, in the next paragraph, are we there? Yes. Your business is hereby ordered to itemize whatever and however many commercial products and or services in which the above U.S. federal public person wishes to commercially acquire. And it says, now you have to tell the IRS that since there is proven harassment of immune who are protected by the United States of America, immediately the IRS has to take care of it. And Trump explained the procedure to put them, U.S. court, in a condition not to harm anymore. It says that the balance sheet of this United States corporate has to be brought to zero. You see, it is written here, the total cost amount to zero. This is like when we bring the ledgers in court. That is, bankruptcy is declared, the formal administration goes, the CEO with the signature of the president goes, taking the ledgers to court and saying, this is enough, we stop operating, we can no longer operate, and we declare bankruptcy. Of the court itself does it. That's why this is the voluntary bankruptcy action. The voluntary bankruptcy action, they act. The involuntary one, the Moorish, happen when the CEO and the president say, now it's enough. We declare bankruptcy. They take the ledgers and bring them to the court. This happens in Italy too. Starting from that moment, the court appoints a liquidator who stops everything. And as Trump says here, he says, you are duly authorized to represent the aggrieved party, sui juris, de jure, in proper person, and this is just natural law. As you see, all this spelling comes from Latin, because natural law is ancient, it's old, it is common law, and it takes up the spelling pro se, sui juris, de jure, etc., etc. And he affirms you have to ask the IRS to bring this balance sheet to zero to start making an inventory of the asset of this enormous corporate and begin with the procedure bearing in mind that from the bankruptcy of this corporation, the part highlighted in yellow, from the bankruptcy of the United States corporation owes what the corporation owes. The only true creditors are the Americans, the American people, we the people, and therefore they have to be compensated for the damage. So everything that is in the asset of this fat cow, including the national debt owed by them to the people, automatically becomes a credit for the people. Be careful, because this is a double entry bookkeeping. What the current debt of the United States Corp is, which is trillions of dollars, becomes a credit and becomes the credit of the only creditors in existence, and Trump writes it, which is the Americans, which is the American people, so we the people, okay? And he refers to the National Banking Emergency Act of 1933, the years in which Italy, in the person of Guido Jung, went, finance minister at that time, to sign to file for bankruptcy because he had bankrupt Italy, along with the king and Mussolini, and to reconstitute itself as a corporation. That's the year in which the Republic of Italy reconstitutes itself as a corporation, and with it so many countries. Then there's the list. We'll see them. Trump goes on. So let's say the whole part of the bankruptcy execution of this corporation will be handled in this way. The debts are arising from bonds, the transaction, the deals that have been conducted, the whole stock market, the commercial market. In short, it's the reckoning. In bold, the last three lines, it says, whoever will intentionally dishonor, therefore will not comply, will disobey this order. See public debt. Then concerns the bond part related to the public debt, whoever is related to this entity. With the United States, he will have to respond legally for it, with a federal investigation at the maximum possible punishment have to be foreseen, because in America, but also in our country, when you have an institutional role, if you commit a crime, sometimes your crime is multiplied by 3. The penalty for a citizen is X, and rightly so, the penalty for a public official or a manager or a sub-government official, an employee of the department, is 3 times as much. Because you have sworn allegiance to the Constitution, so you do it in a state of willful misappropriation with intent to commit obviously crimes against the citizen, and you will suffer a sentence of 3 times the expected punishment. It closes with sincerely, which is sincerely yours. I'm close to you, in short. It's not distant greetings, it's a friendly peer-to-peer things. And it's signed Donald Trump. The most interesting things come in the last 2 lines below in italics. He writes in alternates, he writes Donald J. Trump, President and Chief Executive Officer of the United States. Did you hear it? You say, but how? That usually signed President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Force. But what about this thing? Chief Executive Officer of the Corp. The one that he wants to send to the bankruptcy, telling and explaining till now how to do and to whom to turn, how to put to zero balance sheet. Oh yes, yes, just yes. In fact, Chief Executive Officer, if you take the initials as an acronym, is read CEO. You have read it many times, isn't it? The CEO of Amazon is Jeff Bezos, written CEO. So is the CEO. And then Donald Trump, in this letter that no one has read until now fully and carefully, he signs himself as the CEO. So is the CEO of the United States Corporation. Why? Because right now he is the President of the United States, so he's in full power to bankrupt the United States Corporation because he's the President. Do you realize what this letter is? That is, he can voluntarily petition to bankrupt the corporation that he presides over, take the ledgers to court and bankrupt it. Therefore, after a short time, United States Corporation disappears from the CEC. This letter is from May, and the disappearance occurred shortly thereafter. And let's go on, understand who was or who is this United States Corporation Company. United States Corporation Company was present, and those who follow this type of logic of reasoning and investigation know it very well. In the CEC. What is the SEC? The SEC is the Security Exchange Commission of Washington, D.C., and it is a body that is equal to our Italian concept, that is, all companies, all our JSC, but also all the companies listed on Italian stock exchange, for example brands, etc., are registered with the SEC because otherwise their stock market titles cannot be traded on the international stock market. So we say that is the king of concept because it resides in what is considered the financial heart of the world, the United States of America. Obviously, it resides in Washington, D.C., and those of you who know that Washington right now has become hostile territory, which is precisely what is garrisoned by massive military forces, and the buildings and the departments and the Congress and the White House are surrounded by military until the end of March, with Frisian horses, barbed wire, New Jersey, put so that cars can get through, armored cars, and the massive whole battalions of National Guard and even regular army. So let's just say that right now, Washington, D.C. and the District of Columbia, about which we talk later, are having a great time. It looks like nothing's going on, but there is a lot going on. It looks like nothing going on, but there is a lot going on. But let's go back to the SEC. So the United States Corporation was present at the SEC until last year. We all saw it a little bit. We all learned a little bit to do research on this public database called Edgar. Edgar, as the name Edgar, spelling of Edgar, so it is the database of the SEC. So if you have to find a listed company and you want to decide, for example, if it is worth investing in that stock, its balance sheet are public, its financial documents are public, and you can see the trend. Beyond seeing the stock market trend, you can see how they are working. So if it is a strong stock, in your opinion, you can put money on it and invest from the point of view of stocks. Strange case, there are also a foreign state in the SEC, but not only foreign state, there is also the United States, so it is no foreign. The United States are the United States. Why should United States be there? Well, we will find out later, but now it's no longer there, and you can see from this slide. If you look for United States Corporation, it used to appear, and there was an impressive attached folder of financial documents that are our financial statements, right? There are our financial statement of how the state money is spent, how it's invested, how many bonds are sold, how many government financial obligations are placed on the market, and so on. And you can wonder why such realties registered on a site that should only deal with trade. But it only deals with stock exchange. So many people over the years affirm, well, it's normal because to place public obligation in Italy or United States must be there by force, because if not, how can Italy sell them on the stock exchange? Okay, but there is a small problem. Italy has to respect the Washington DC order to do this. In short, it should, it could, it would be a long series of conditional. In reality, at the SEC, listed corporate states are doing business, exchanging, obtaining loans, bonds, and issue of new money in exchange with guarantees. The collateral, you'll say. Well, its banks are giving them the collateral. No, we are speaking about collateral bonds. They are collateral, and we'll see later that this collateral, in essence, is the human capital, okay? The birth certificate are collaterals for the United States, for the Republic of Italy, listed on the SEC, for many other countries, more or less 80, all listed over the SEC. But let's move on. Let's go back to the proceeding. I want you to understand the true identity of this United States Corporation Company, which seems to be a small telephone company in Florida, and this is not the case, and we will see later. Moving on with the images, we now go back to the past, you say. We were not supposed to talk about the court? Yes, the court is data, acts, facts, so they are evidence, because everything that comes out of a court is supposed to be true, at least, isn't it? What year? Let's go back to 1871. You have heard a lot these days about 1776 and the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America, about George Washington, about the Founding Fathers, and so on. It is not a sterile historical passage. It has its own value because since 1776, with the original Declaration of Independence, the Americans basically declared themselves sovereign with respect to the British Empire, with respect to the British Crown. They declared they did not want any more interference, and they declared England hostile, so they self-declare a sovereign, and they chased away the British invader who was making claims because originally they were sent with British ships, the famous Mayflower, someone will remember it, to colonize this land. Consider that being those people mostly convicts who has problem with the law, with the family, they have been put on ships and told them to go there and colonize this huge unexplored continent. I mean the pioneers, the Wild West, the conquest. We know so much, we have seen so many movies, right? When they began to exploit the resources of the land, Great Britain came looking for money. The Crown said, "Dear gentlemen, I sent you there. The ships were mine, and you have colonized in my name and on my behalf. You must pay me taxes. You must pay me everything related to the coverage of healthcare costs." On the other side, the local people were saying, "Well, we crossed the ocean, but we must always depend on the Crown, which moreover, when we raise our heads, comes here with his armies and make war on us." There were wars of independence, bloody wars, really bloody, and finally they chased them away. With the Declaration of Independence, they say, "Listen, we are sovereign, this is our land, we have colonized it, let us live." After that, after self-determination, they establish and then constitute their constitution. But they called the Bill of Rights. That is the Charter of Rights, where there is the famous right to happiness, which is perhaps the most beautiful dictate of the American Constitution, because there is no constitution in the world that provides for the right to happiness. That is the right to live and prosper and improve the condition of one family unit and of the community in order to aspire to the happiness of the community. That I find magnificent. It's in the Act. We're talking here about the 41st Congress, the Congressional Session of 1871, as you read here. There are even the acts, there are the speeches, there are the motions, there are those who immediately declared themselves against, there are those who said, "What the hell are we doing here? We privatized the nation." Oh yes, they privatized the nation. Therefore, they send it first into bankruptcy. You say, "But a nation cannot go to bankrupt." Yes, they send it bankrupt. And then they make it debtor, the nation, with the sovereign people inside. They make it in debt to an entity called the United States Corporation Company that it set up and incorporated in a new territory. And you say, "How? A new territory?" Yes, it was 20 years that they had already approved the construction of a new capital in a state that wasn't there yet. It was a non-existent state. In fact, they created with this act of Congress in 1871, and it's called, you may have heard many times, District of Columbia, with capital Washington, D.C. There is already a state of Washington on the other side of the United States overlooking the Pacific Ocean, and its capital is Olympia. That is the state of Washington. On the other side, this is the city of Washington in the District of Columbia. Be careful. This is a district, it's not a federal state. California, Texas, Georgia, Louisiana, Florida are federal states. This one is a district. That means it is a territory with a special regime, different from the others, different from the other federal states. And why is it special? It has a different jurisdiction than the other federal states. The entire District of Columbia and the entire capital city of Washington, therefore, the Department of the Treasury, the Department of Defense, the White House, the Capitol, are all in a jurisdiction, as is the case for the Vatican, and as is the case in London for London City, in a different jurisdiction from the rest of the territory. And what is this jurisdiction? Is the jurisdiction of commercial maritime law. But now we won't go into detail. Just think that the capital has its own jurisdiction, immune, because it administers the law of the sea in the mainland, and the rest of the United States of America, the State of the Union, the federal states, are ruled by the civil law jurisdiction of the United States of America. The law of the sea, and I'll make it very short for you, provides that everything you come across at sea becomes yours. If you, for example, find a boat with no one on board, floating and unguarded by anyone, think of pirates who would kill the occupants and throw them overboard. That boat becomes yours, but yours truly. The Code of Navigation established that principle. You become the owner. So, related to, let's say, the balance of weight and measures from a legal standpoint between the state of the District of Columbia and the rest of the federal state of the United States is like a pirate ship sailing ashore, administering the navigation code and taking everything like the ace when you play cards. Believe me, it can be verified. We'll talk more about it if you're curious, but it's really like that. And of course, it is unlawfully to act in this way. What happened when this enclave came out? They're called enclaves because they are immune. It's kind of, if you want, Freeport, you know? I mean, they are enclaves that are within a territory, but they don't give a damn about the rest of it. I mean, they have their own laws, the nice, immune offices, who has the residents there, of course, all the senators, etc. They have immunity, political offices, and they are on top of that immune. If, for example, a marshal has to foreclose on their house, he can do it. There's a jurisdiction defect, so they can seize a property of someone who is resident in Washington, D.C. And so this beautiful invention, this rabbit out of the hat, was not voted on, but it was presented as an article of the Constitution, and Congress passed this thing because it was an imposition, obtorto collo, it is said in Latin, just with their hands around their necks. They simply said, this is the Constitution, we are restoring it, do you want it out this way? Because doing that, you have to take the District of Columbia, you have to take Washington, D.C., and you have to take the fact that the nation is put in debt to a commercial entity, a corporation, having obviously the maritime jurisdiction I was talking about before, which becomes the sole creditor. Good night to the United States of America. Good night to Washington, George Washington, I mean. Good night to the Founding Fathers. They had pulled off an amazing trick to eat the nation, administer it, and prey on it. Until last year, until United States Corporation came out of the SEC. But other procedures need to be set to complete this divestment liquidation formal notice and then convicted for the crimes that he has committed. There are a whole series of other steps. So you have to understand that in 1871 it was accomplished. It came just the American people had their heir taken away. Everything belonging to them was taken away. Here let's start with these slides that I have highlighted. Here we see that there are a number of acronymous self-state: California, Connecticut, D.C., Washington, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, etc. This is the small telephone company they were talking about in Italy. They're all United States Corporation Company. So gosh, we have a lot of corporation company and we have them all over the United States, all of them. I'm going to show you the full list now. This is the one in Tallahassee. Why? Why do we have them in all the states? Simple, because a corporation that is defended by a single law firm, a colossus, we will see later, I repeat, the largest law firm in America is agent, that is local agent. What is an agent in American business law? It's simply a local attorney whose only job is to bring to, the budget, then file the final budget and go and file other things with the Chamber of Commerce. Not to the court, with the Chamber of Commerce. It's the accountant. Okay? It's the local accountant. So the United States Corporation Company Colossus, because it's a colossus, it was listed as the SEC. It was accounted representatives in all the state, and the list is absolutely visitable in the public records, and I'll show you now. There is a complete list. I take you, for example, this in the public register of the Federation, same as ACE in Italy, okay? Where they are present and must be present because they are business relationship, because, for example, the United States Corporation Company will have a fleet of cars, for example, will have trucks, will have transport, will make trade, and therefore must appear in all public records. And you must know who is its agent. And so, this is a list of agents of this corporation. You will find it in all areas of the various departments, okay? Everywhere. In Homeland Security, in Defense, because it provides services to all these departments. Those are their departments. And so here you see, look how cool it is. I'm going to run them. All the American states, all United States Corporation Company has agent in all American states. And it's not that little bankruptcy company with 40 employees that we're talking about now in Italy. So these are the agents, these are the accountants, a minimum of one accountant per state. Let's go on and see what this lawyer is like. Who became a lawyer 4 years ago, they say in Italy, basically is a nonsense person, a sort of bungler, a public defender. So what you see now is Phelps LLP. Phelps is spelled Phelps. Going back in the edit, if someone will help me to recall, you can find it in the court records, Phelps LLP. So this law firm is the largest law firm in the United States, and if you see underneath the awards that they received, you can see the last one, where the cup is. It says that this law firm has been chosen, awarded. 127 of its attorneys has been selected as the top attorneys in America, and 16 of them have been named Attorney of the Year, and 37 of them have been chosen for the first class of those who really keep an eye on. They are young attorneys, probably, who are great promises in the bar. We're talking about the greatest recognition you can give to a law firm in USA. Sorry for the notification that occasionally come in, but I have no way to zeroing in on some new notification from people who write me, and I can silence them. Maybe they are writing to me for the first time now. I apologize for the noise. What is their specific expertise? They are criminalists, civilists, they do administrative law, they do everything. However, what is their specific expertise? Look at the top of the menu where it says services. You open the menu, and the menu says, look at that, here we are in Louisiana. That's because I choose the law firm that treats 3 federal states, Louisiana, Florida, and Texas, I think. Then there are the other Phelps firms located in the other federal states, of course. So look at what his main business is. The first thing you see on services areas of expertise is Admiralty. So Admiralty law, commercial law, international maritime, okay? We open this page and find the following. Phelps Dunbar offers his client Admiralty clients. So clients that are obviously in Washington, D.C. They are in the District of Columbia because only they have Admiralty jurisdiction, and they actually call them Admiralty clients. And whatever, they advertise here. The benefit of a significant, regionally resourced experience on the entire third coast, which would be the one that faces the Gulf of Mexico. And they write one of the largest U.S. firms dealing with Admiralty practice and the country sea. What did I tell you at the beginning? The Admiralty law is a fraud because it administers the Maritime Code on land, sea of the country, he calls it. Phelps Dunbar has more than 25 attorneys through the Gulf region, in the Gulf of Mexico alone, than in the southern third coast state. And just think how many he has around all the federal states, okay? Think about how many they have in Washington, who have to handle the opportunities, the challenges of our clients regionally, nationally, and internationally, they say. So these are the ones who defended the corporation, because the main activity is this phantomatic admiralty law that they have modernly disguised with a name which is called the International Private Maritime Code, which is admiralty law, and this is their specialty, So there is someone. This admiralty law really exists. I'm giving you proof of that, because this is the real cutting edge of this law firm. And so we know what kind of professional. Take a tour of this site. Then afterwards, you find it in the info of this video that we're going to upload when we finish editing it. I don't know when, but we're going to edit it. And here you will realize that this is the biggest law firm in America. All this was just to make you understand that the respondent is not a mere thing. A small grocery in Florida. It's not a bankrupt supermarket. It's not a drugstore. It's not any of those things. But it's a colossus, and it's a fake state, posing as a state. But it's actually a commercial entity of international private maritime law. This just to complete a first smattering, because we have talked about Moorish, we have talked about their purpose, we have understood that they are not buffoons, fools, imbecilic sovereign, going around bothering the various law cards. The cards are part of the corporation, so try to understand why the cards are trying to abstract them in every way, because they have figured out what they want to do. The cards are dependent of the corporation, gentlemen, like all the rest of the departments, like all services and goods. Goods, not all, because they don't produce any. They just prey. Like all the services the corporation provides, so does the police, so does the army. That's why Trump wants to shut down this fraudulent situation that has enslaved human beings. And we'll see that when we go and open the Chinese boxes one by one to understand how this corporation operates. And I really need somebody who is an expert there. I found the whole correlation, but we need somebody to assist me, and we will find the right person, because we have a lot of people who are helping us in a voluntary way to present it to you in the most digestible, easiest, most understandable way for all of you. Here we are not speaking about a multinational corporation going bankrupt. This is about fake states, set up as corporation, internally managing as a primary asset our lives. And if we were the asset, as if we were movable assets, movable with arms and legs. So the operation that Trump, the Q team and the plan are conducted. And you'll see why. Because they will be a surprise ending with a word that those who have been following the Q drops every night and asking what's going to be, where it's going to be, but it's going to be in Arkansas, at Mount Rushmore, is it going to be in US Capitol, but where are these towers, this red castle? Will it be Biden fake studio of movie production? No, it's none of that. It's the mother of all the obscene scam of mankind. So respect for the Moorish, huge respect for the Moorish, whom we will have to thank very soon. Study, research, inform yourself. Don't start with the prejudice they instill in your brain. Put yourself in a situation of suspended judgment and find out who they truly are. They are nothing like they have been portrayed to you. They are truly the kings of the herd, and we will have to thank them very soon. Their action was moved because they have to represent the creditors, because they are the only one who have a legal status that allows them to move against the behemoth. So much so that Trump gives them advice. In the meantime, he, as President of the United States, but also CEO of the Board of Directors of this corporation, signs its final closure. It clears it from the SEC and now sees the asset, creates a constitutional republic restoring the pre-1871 Constitution, thereby 1776. Becoming the 19th President of the United States of America. We should always remember to add of America, because the corporation took away the word America, the people. America, the territory, was swallowed, giving the corporation just the name of United States to be able to exploit it. The real wealth are humans. We are the most valuable asset, much more greedy for these beings. We must realize it. We must become aware. We must understand. We must love us, because we are precious. So, if you think how many predators have been on us for millennia, now you have to tell and ask yourself why. Because we are very precious, beyond life, beyond the physical vessel, beyond birth and death. We are very precious, priceless, and we need to love ourselves and then love each other. So here we are. I hope it's very long, a 3-part story. We'll talk about it again. If there are questions, we'll make more videos to give new answer. But now I've tried to give you the fullest possible pictures without making it an encyclopedia. But I assure you, it could be 7 encyclopedias, not 1, 7. So thank you for having patience to follow along so far. And where we go one, we go all. Today is January 28, 2021, and welcome the very talented editor who has taken the trouble to edit what you will see now. And it's not that easy because those are really tough topics. It was absolutely necessary to create an appendix because of this breaking news, because some really noteworthy things happened last night between 27 and 28 that absolutely must be part of the narrative of this film, of this video, fact, that we are showing to you so far. So I'm going to try to explain everything to you. Surely you're going to say, Mamma mia, are we starting again over from the first slide? Didn't we already see those? You're right. But it serves as a reminder because we are going back to an hour and a half ago and more in the video. In the meantime, remember that these are the 2 creditors. Remember number 2. They are the famous 2 Moorish who lived by tricks, ran away from home, poor and crazy, like they say in Italy. But now let's talk about this 5 DBA, this 5 doing business as of the United States Corporation Company. During this day, we are following the stock market trends and see what happens, because from here you understand if there is really something that is changing in these giants as you have seen. And so I'm going to start telling you about the first one, CIS Coastal International Security Incorporated. Let's go and see what it's up in the stock market. Here, let's start by remembering who they are. It's this behemoth that basically hires surveillance services, contractors, and things of that nature, sort of like a private army, something like academy. It's listed at the National Chamber of Labor. Basically, this is a federal agency, already subject to other legal initiatives since 2008. Its activities had already been suspended for irregularities in its financial statements. That is, it has submitted financial statements that did not then comply with the audit. So let's say it wasn't new to the court. But the most interesting thing concerns, on the other side, one of the 2 doing business as company operating under, and both mentioned in the proceeding, under the aegis of United States Corp. You remember, they are involved in everything practically, in chemistry, construction, industry, trading, extraction, oil, oil wells, storage and transportation. So they also have docks and ships, innovation technology, power plants. In shorty, they are involved in everything. Let's take a look at what their stock is worth. It was zero, practically. It was 0.0006 US dollars. It's still present and traded because it obviously traded on other exchanges, but I mean, this is the valuation in dollar. So basically, it's doing very well in the market. For what it does, for what it offers, I mean, its stock it's really not so worth. We're in the greater Guangdong region, and here it is. I mean, it's feverish, and that's just the performance of these subsidiaries. And now let's pick up the famous tribunal order. The tribunal was speaking about the formal charge of international war crimes filed by the two Moorish. We saw why, because between the United States and the Moorish in 1787, George Washington was president, a peace treaty was signed which determined the status of the Moorish, letting them absolute sovereigns, antecedent to the presence of the Americans on American soil, we will see later, also South American. So that therefore the judge affirmed, I cannot arbitrate this type of matters. I suggest you to refer to another court of law. Well, they referred to another court of law very quickly, I suppose. Now, let's see how far the process has come, always in InfoRuptcy, the database that shows us what is going on with the bankruptcy proceeding. So the case number is always the same. United States Corporation Company, Florida Northern Bankruptcy Court. We're always in the same proceeding. It's always the United States cited. Here it is. So I would like you to realize that the proceeding is always the same. They're always Phelps Dunbar as United States counsel. They're always the same DBA, China Telecom, etc. Then we have, you remember, there were the two alleged creditors. So Shekinah L and their son Rashi L, defending themselves. But tonight, another one was added. United States Trustee, 110 East Park Avenue, Suite 128, Tallahassee, Florida, telephone. U.S. Trustee, that is, the sole trustee for Florida in this case, delegated therefore by the first trustee of the United States, where the United States Corporation was established, that is in New York. This is the Florida trustee. This is the address. We have simply tonight copied and pasted this address and it brought me exactly here, United States Department of Justice, Region 21, which is the Northern District of Florida. And look what it says. I can tell you the excitement. I'm trying to keep calm now because I already gave tonight on excitement and enthusiasm. Now here it says, the Tallahassee, Florida office of the United States Trustee serves the Northern District of Florida. We have a trustee, gentlemen, dear ones, so we have a liquidator and commissioner of the United States Corporation Service, which has been placed, therefore, in bankruptcy. Here we have the names, here is the office, this is the address, identical to the previous one, 110 East Park Avenue, Suite 128, Tallahassee, Florida, and this is zip code 32301, phones, emails, etc. There is a notification in the home. Only this one appears, August 28, 2020, Friday. The trustee program extends to the phone or video section because obviously of COVID measure. And here to tell you, you can reach us by phone or video or some other way too because you are not allowed to come to our offices. And the second news in the home is the following notification to Chapter 7 and 13 trustees regarding request of remedy for relief related to the CARES Act of 2020. Do you remember when that immense amount of money was voted to be distributed to the Americans because of COVID and lockdown? So let's go over what this act is. This act, date April the 7th, 2020, repeats under the CARES Act of 2020, therefore COVID emergency, and gives notification to everyone, say that this act allows for the application of $1,200 for each, $2,400 for married couples, an additional $500 for each child under the age of 17 years old. So, quite odd. It's no longer the Internal Revenue Service, the U.S. Treasury, the U.S. Department of the Treasury disbursing this money, but on the contrary, a trustee of the United States. So a liquidator, in this case from North Florida, who acts because he has in his hands the disposition of what were the assets of the United States Corporation. So we finally have the word trustee appearing now. Now I'll show you where it appears. It appears everywhere. This is always the U.S. Department of Justice of the United States, basically taken over by this appointed trustee, 2, 3, 4 for each state, because they are different regions, as you saw. Florida, for example, has 2 of them. But Texas, for example, which is huge, I think has much more than 2. And look at that. Those here, executive office in the United States trustee. So executive office for all the trustees of the United States, they are all liquidating commissioners. There's a board, and then there's a regional office everywhere. In Alabama, we have 1 woman. For example, Lori Thornton, assistant U.S. trustee. In Arizona, we have 2. You see, Elizabeth and Eileen are 2 women. Arkansas, we have Patricia Stanley, trustee, another woman. In California, we have Tiffany Carroll, a woman, a man, Abraham Feuerstein, assistant. Look how many they are. Look how many they are. Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, District of Columbia. Oh, here. Who is for District of Columbia? As far as liquidation is concerned, the District of Columbia bankruptcy assets are administered by the Office of the United States Trustee located in Alexandria, Virginia, region number 4. And it says, go and look at this site. Do we want to go and see it? Then, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, they all there. All the United States of America. Let's go and see the one interesting for us. The District of Columbia. Here it is. This is Washington State, sorry. Let's go back for a moment. District of Columbia. I had to click here, obviously. Oh, this is Region 4. You've seen that it's all divided into regions, covering federal judicial district established for Maryland, South Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, and the District of Columbia. So the District of Columbia doesn't have its own trustee. Do you understand that? While the others have 2, 3 assistant trustees, etc. The District of Columbia has to rely on Region 4. It's no longer an immune state, it's on its own right. But its trustees are located in Maryland, South Carolina, Virginia, and West Virginia. So they are there. District of Columbia doesn't even have a trustee because it's not a state. Quite easy. So it's going to be liquidated exactly in region number 4 Here's the name of the trustee, John P. Fitzgerald III, acting United States trustee. And there is his contact information. Let's go and see where is the phone number. We make it live right now. It's more fun. Let's go looking for this phone number and see where it takes us. Here it is. Region number 4, Regional Office, Office of the United States Trustee, Columbia, South Carolina office. Here they are. Columbia Division. Washington isn't there. Washington is not entitled to a trustee. It's entitled to be solely and exclusively stripped. Look, other trustees from other states are liquidated in the District of Columbia and Washington, D.C. We have no Washington trustee, no Washington, D.C. trustees. So, dear gentlemen, come back here. There's a third creditor coming after the Moorish, and it's called United States Trustee. It appeared tonight. For Florida, where this bankruptcy petition was filed, it has its own address which corresponds to the Department of Justice. For the Department of Justice, as here in Italy, the liquidator of the receivership are appointed precisely aimed at liquidation. They are appointed by the courts, therefore by the judicial system, in the same way these trustees have been appointed within the existing judicial system in the Department of Justice, but they operate with full powers within those departments. Therefore, they are liquidating the United States Corporation, which therefore exists, which therefore has always existed since 1871, which therefore is now in a state of bankruptcy and is being liquidated at the level of the national territory in order to reimburse, give relief, and indemnify the American people with the people, who are the first and the only creditor of this immense, enormous, bloody, satanic fraud. We will go on further research, but certainly this is the bombshell for today. We have confirmation that the United States Corporation is in liquidation. We'll talk about the rest later. And always, where we go one, we go all, for everyone.